Wait, I'm on the internet? Oh, okay. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته آيات للسائلين إذ قالوا ليوسف وأخوه أحب إلى أبينا منا ونحن عصبة إن أبانا لفي ضلال مبين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي فالحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Hey everyone, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So we're back here again trying to unearth more of the treasures inside the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. Today I'm going to try to talk about ayahs number 7 and 8. And these two ayat are tied together, and there are some brief comments on 7 and then quite a few things to discuss in ayah number 8. So hopefully we can accomplish both of those goals in a reasonable amount of time. The first thing to note here is that scene 1 is over. Scene 1 is the intimate conversation between Yusuf alayhi salam and his father. He told him the dream, and then dad responded with a couple of things. Now that's come to a conclusion, and Allah makes a concluding comment that ties the scene up. So it's Allah as the narrator of the story. Now, excuse me, my adhan app went off. This is why I keep my phone on silent. Now I remember, Valerie. Remember you said why you keep your phone on silent? Because I'm always giving lectures. That's why. That's why that just happened. I'm really Islamic, so my phone has prayer app. Okay. So anyway, so لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ. The concluding comment is, now I'll give you guys a brief translation first. Certainly in Yusuf and his brothers, there have been many signs, many lessons, many divine signs for those who ask questions and for those who seek. Okay, so that's a rough translation. The first thing to note is, when I said certainly, I was trying to capture some sense of the Arabic لَقَدْ كَانَ. But لَقَدْ كَانَ is used in Arabic for a few things. It can be used to emphasize an act. So there's definitely a lot to learn. The point being, there's definitely a lot to learn from Yusuf, and you definitely have a lot to learn from his brothers, so long as you're the kinds of people that ask questions. If you're curious, if you want to know, many of your questions are going to get answered by paying attention to Yusuf, and not just Yusuf, also his brothers. Now again, because we know the rest of the story already, it's not like it's being revealed one ayah at a time to us. We have the entire thing in front of us. His brothers play only a partial role in the story as far as their mention is concerned. They're mentioned in the beginning, then there's a long period in the story where they're invisible, and then they kind of get mentioned at the end again, right? But now they're being placed at this pivotal point, and Allah is saying, you have a lot to learn from Yusuf and his brothers. And the truth is, we have a lot to learn from Yusuf, we have a lot to learn from his brothers, we have a lot to learn from the minister and the minister's wife and the prisoners, and like all the characters we're going to get introduced to, including the father, we have a lot to learn from all of them. But for some reason, Allah Azza wa Jal has highlighted this phrase where we have much to learn from Yusuf and his brothers. And my sense of this, as per my discussions with Sheikh Suhaib too, is it's not just you have a lot to learn from Yusuf alayhi salam, and there's lots of ayat in him, in what is talked about him, and there are lots of ayat in what is talked about them, but Yusuf and his brothers, meaning the relationship they have with each other, has a lot to teach you. Not just them as individual groups or entities or characters in the story, but the relationship between Yusuf and his brothers, there's a lot to learn from it for those of you that have questions. The other implication of لَقَدْ كَانَ is it can be used for something that's been going on for a long time. As if Allah is saying, yes, this story is being revealed now in Arabic in the best possible way. But the lessons to be learned from what happened with Yusuf and his brothers, those lessons have been around for a long time for any who would have had questions. So it's not something new that's being told to you. In that sense, that part of the story of their dynamic and that relationship has actually always been there, and there was much to learn from it. And in it, may even be a dig that there was so much to learn from it that people that should have learned from it didn't learn. Right? That's always been there, and for those who would have had questions, they would have had something to learn from it. And it's also, in a sense, in a subtle way, responding to those who tried to ask a question to the Prophet ﷺ. Oh yeah, how did the Israelites make their way into Egypt? And Allah says, yeah, there is a lot to learn for those who actually have real questions in Yusuf and his brothers. Like it's redirecting a question asked for the wrong intentions and actually redirecting it to the right intentions. and saying, I know you asked this to try to stump Allah's messenger, but if you were people of genuine questions, you would have learned a lot from this story. Too bad that you don't want to learn from this story in order to get guidance. You want to ask a question about the story to prove that he's not a prophet. There's something wrong with the way that you think about questions. And in it, Allah has also given us guidance about what does it mean to ask questions. We're seeking answers to problems in our life. The purpose of revelation is not to address our curiosity. I've all but dropped down responding to comments on social media, even on the videos that I'm posting here, but I observe the comments, certainly. And one of the common questions is, Zulaykha, the minister's wife, did he end up marrying her? Whatever happened to her? What's going on with it? And I gave a whole thing about that before, but people want to keep asking that question. And it's cool if you want to know, but the thing is, Allah is giving us a reorientation about how we think about questions. What kind of questions should we be asking of the Quran? The Quran is not the reading of a magazine. The Quran is not the reading of a textbook. The Quran is not the watching of a TV episode. The Quran is guidance. And the questions we should be asking the Quran is, how is this going to guide my life? Now, if you know what happened to Zulaykha, or you don't know what happened to her, or if Allah chose not to tell you, guess what? If Allah chose not to tell you, maybe it didn't have much to do with your guidance. But now it still has to do with your curiosity. So it can be that somebody is approaching the Quran, asking questions about the Quran, but asking the wrong questions. And therefore not getting what they're supposed to get from the Quran. Now, the other thing about sa'il in Arabic is that it can also mean the one who needs. The beggar is also called a sa'il. And even though this has not been classically so much commented on, my read of this, Allahu A'lam, is also, we all have emotional needs. And we find ourselves in desperate situations in life when it comes to our dealings with our relationships. And for those of you and myself that find ourselves at a juncture where we don't know how to deal with a certain situation, Allah is telling us, in this relationship you might find a lot of answers. For those of you that are in need for answers and are in a place where you need help, then pay attention to Yusuf, not just Yusuf, also pay attention to his brothers. Right? So we are used to paying attention to prophets, but now we're paying attention to those this group of people that actually caused the prophet a lot of trouble. And pay attention, and you'll learn a lot from them. Ayat also, in a previous lecture in Ali Imran, I talked about how the word ayat refers to something of value. There's something valuable to be gained from our focus on not just Yusuf, but also his brethren. So these few comments are worthy of note. Now let's dig into why his brother. Learning from Yusuf alayhi salam is all too obvious, and everybody here can understand that. All of you watching can understand that. But the first thing to know about his brothers is, put it simply, anybody can get messed up. It doesn't matter what family you come from. It doesn't matter what environment you're in. They couldn't possibly be in a more positive environment. They're in the family of a prophet, and they're also siblings of one, actually. So just because you're surrounded by a positive environment doesn't ensure that you're immune from messing up. A lot of times we think that if we provide our children a positive environment, that is going to make sure that they are not going to follow down the devil's path. The doors of a masjid don't keep the shaitan out. Right? Shaitan's not like there's an electric fence you can create, and you have Quran being heard, and you have halaqat going on, and everybody's dressed modestly, and we're talking about good things, and that makes sure shaitan won't make his way in. No, that's not how that works. That is not how that works. The devil actually finds his playground in houses of worship many times. Some of the worst conflicts, some of the worst egotistical battles happen inside masajid and churches and synagogues, and that's where they happen. And you'll see manifestations of evil in places where you wouldn't expect them. So we think of evil places like where haram is going on, where things Allah doesn't approve of. Zina is taking place, alcohol is taking place, shamelessness, lewdness, evil, stealing, etc., foul language. Those places are evil, those are devilish places. The devil does not have certain places that are reserved for him and other places is off limits for him. That's not how that works. And it's not like certain people are more prone towards the devil and other people are less prone. So if some people have a beard, they're less prone to the waswasa of shaitan. Or if a woman has a hijab on, then shaitan bothers her less. Actually, he bothers them more. He comes after them more because they can actually look in the mirror and think everything's okay. I still have this thing on. I'm still good. I have one of these, so I'm all right. I'm pretty religious. And that's when the shaitan gets you, because now you have a virus and you don't even know you have it, pun intended. right? So the point here being, Yusuf and his brothers, there's a lot to learn. And the first of them is being from a certain family and being in a certain environment is not an immunity from evil. And evil takes different forms. On that point, many Muslims live in the West, and many Muslims live in, Muslim majority countries. And sometimes people say, I don't want to live in America, I don't want to live in Canada, I don't want to live in Australia. The values here are all messed up. The kuffar are everywhere, and there's kafir burgers being sold, and there's kafir drinks being sold, and there's kafir roads and kafir billboards. And I just want to take my children to an Islamic environment. I want to take them where they can hear the adhan and they can eat halal chicken and all of that whenever they feel like, etc., etc. I know I'm being a little sarcastic. It's okay. I was fasting. So the thing is, they want to take them away to a different environment where they won't see filthy billboards, or they're not going to hear that kind of foul language, or they're not going to. But the problem is, when you take them to what you think is a more Islamic environment because you can hear the adhan, now there's bribery, racism, classism, there's social corruption, there's political corruption, there's other kinds of evil. Okay, so you don't like this label of evil because it's more obvious to you, and these other sets of evils, you're totally okay with those. And people aren't giving inheritance and usurping the wealth of the orphan. All of that's happening in Muslim majority places too. But that's okay, because at least, they're going to learn tajweed. What? This is your idea of more Islamic, right? Just have the facade of religion. It looks like the costume is religious, but the values are no longer there. So no one environment is safe from the way shaitan plays. He plays different games in different places. And that's the first thing to learn about Yusuf and his brothers. His brothers are being played with by the devil. That's clear because even Yaqub alayhi salam, he mentioned them, and then he mentioned who? Inna shaytana lil insani aduwwun mubin. That's what he said in the 5th ayah. Don't tell your brothers, otherwise they're going to make a scheme against you. It's going to be terrible. The devil is an enemy to every human being. That's what he said. Because he saw that they are prone, or they are vulnerable to the whispers of a shaitan. So now that's one thing. The other thing is, as a principle in the study of the Quran, there's a specific sort of lesson here for this surah, but I think a larger principle is also being given to us by Allah. And that is that when we study the stories, especially the stories in the Quran, then we have to go out of our way to ask ourselves the right questions with every detail Allah tells us. Like, you have to get into the mindset of not, I already know this, I already heard this story, I've already been hearing it since I was in Sunday school, or since I was a kid, or I've heard khutbahs about it, or I heard a lecture about it, etc. When you come to a story, every time you have to be someone who asks the question, what can I gain from this now? What more is there here? Why did Allah say this? Like, and the kind of answer you're looking for is one that brings you closer to Him. What can I learn from this? What wisdom can I apply in my relationships from this, etc.? Where can I see this playing out in my life? That's actually the mindset inside ayatun lis-sa'ilin. This is why Allah says elsewhere in the Quran, fihi dhikrukum. In it is your mention. Allah is actually not talking about others. At the end of it all, it's talking about who? You. You didn't just benefit from knowing some people that lived a long time ago and this happened to them. The only way that benefits you is in some way, what you learned about them shed light on what you're up to. It helped you see your life in a different light. It exposed some things that you didn't realize about yourself before, or about the people around you before. That's actually the point. So لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي يُوسُفَ وَإِخْوَتِهِ آيَاتٌ لِلسَّائِلِينَ إِذْ. And so they have many things to teach you, Yusuf and his brothers, especially when. So the next ayah begins with when, and it's almost as if it's tied to the previous ayah. And of the many lessons you will learn them from what is about to be said about the brothers of Yusuf. So now, so far two characters were introduced directly. Yusuf alayhi salam spoke, Yaqub spoke, and the brothers were spoken of, but they haven't spoken yet, right? But now the brothers are going to speak. Now we're in a room. Now the camera is taking us to a room where they're by themselves, and they're having a conversation with each other. And this is what they're going to say to each other. إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. When they said, Yusuf for sure, and his brother are, now the English translation would be, more beloved, are loved more by our dad than we are. Yusuf and his brothers are more lovable, more beloved to our father than we are. وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ, while we are a tight band of men. We are a strong group. Inna abana lafi dalalin mubin. Certainly our father is truly lost in completely lost in obvious confusion, misguidance. Our dad is a lost cause. He's so lost. That's what they're saying about their dad. Now, there's a lot to unpack here, so let's get started. First of all, they are speaking with absolute certainty. La Yusuf. Lam is used for when somebody is swearing by something or somebody is declaring an absolute statement of fact as a fact. So they're saying, you know what the truth is? I swear by it, Yusuf and his brother being the baby brother Binyamin. Yeah? And they don't even mention him by name because he's not that significant. The point is, I'll show you the genealogy when we do the Bible overview, because we're going to do that inshallah when this scene is over. Before we get to when they go talk to the dad, I'm going to get to maybe ayah number 10, and then I'm going to read this exact part of the story from the Bible and compare bit by bit for you guys before going on. That's what we're going to do. We're going to reach a certain milestone and then compare it with the Bible. And then reach a certain milestone and then compare it with the Bible again. And see how Quran is different from the Bible in the telling of the story. But before we get there, just so for now Yaqub alayhi salam had more than one wife, and he had these 12 kids from different wives. Okay, so they're not all. It's not like all 12 are from one wife. In fact, they're not even from two wives. They're from 3 or 4 wives. And Yusuf alayhi salam and his brother Binyamin were from the youngest kids are from a different wife, and the other siblings, even though they're not all from the same mother, they all are older and they're from different wives, and they don't like that he had this kid later on in life. And he had these 2 kids that are much younger. Okay, so it's bothering them. So in it already we've got a psychological dimension. They don't see Yusuf and his brother as their brother. Right? So they say Yusuf and his brother are loved by dad. Not our younger brothers are loved by dad. Right? So the language is important here because they're not calling Yusuf their brother. They're just calling him Yusuf and Yusuf's younger brother. Even though technically he's also whose? Their own younger brother. They don't see him as part of the family. So this is what can happen in family dynamics when, for example, you have complex families. You can have, nowadays, okay, you don't have one man with multiple wives, unless in some societies, but you can have people that were married before and they had children, then they got remarried and they have other children in the new marriage, and the kids from the old marriage are like, dad has betrayed us by having other kids, and they see those kids as an enemy, or they see those kids as, they're the ones who took dad away from us. Dad used to love us, now he loves them. This kind of thought can develop. Or mom used to love us, now she loves them, etc., etc. They can have these kinds of mentalities can brew inside children because there are different mothers involved in the birth of the kid. So that's one subtle dynamic on the side that's already taking place, right? And that's something that has a role in virtually any generation, in any society that can happen, okay? Because vying for the attention of our parents at an early age or feeling like our parents value us is a very critical, pivotal part of our upbringing. Like if you've grown up feeling like your parents think you're worthless or that part of your life wasn't there's something very significant that you were robbed of, right? And there can be people that are very well accomplished. They can get a master's degree, a PhD, they can be very high accomplished in their careers, etc. But their dad always calls them worthless, and it doesn't matter what awards they get or what promotions they get, how everybody thinks they're a rock star, they're going to feel like they're worthless because their dad calls them worthless, right? Jokingly in contemporary society we call it daddy issues, but it's so much deeper than that. A father is supposed to be a staple of validation, of values, of worth. You know what Yusuf alayhi salam's father did for him in the previous ayah, right? And for a lot of people that's missing. That father figure is missing. That's going to anchor you. That's going to warn you from dangers. That's going to be there as your source of strength. That's what a father is supposed to be. When the father doesn't play that role, or when a child is made to feel that dad is going to play that role for someone else but not for you. He's not as accessible to you as he is to those other kids. Because they're his real kids now. You're not his real kids anymore. When they're made to feel like that, or they start feeling like that, but they don't address those feelings can grow and grow and grow and fester. And that's what's happening from the very beginning. We're seeing they've got a problem. They've got an emotional problem with Yusuf alayhi salam being significantly younger. And obviously, they are older. And the way you deal with a 20-year-old, the way you deal with a 19-year-old is not the way you deal with an 8-year-old. It's not the way you deal with a 3-year-old. It's not the way you deal with a 12-year-old. You're not going to, like, if you have an 8-year-old kid, a 10-year-old kid, an 11-year-old kid, you're going to give them a hug, you're going to play with their hair, etc. If you have a 20-year-old, you're not going to do that. Dad, what are you doing? Like, there's more handshake than hug, right? There's more formality. There's a, as men grow up, they also want to be, entitled to some personal space, right? That happens. That's a reality. So the dynamic of a relationship changes, but the way that dad is expressing love for these younger kids is obviously he's holding them, he's closer to them, he's holding them, he's calling them my child, or there's terms of endearment that are not there in the same way for the older kids. That doesn't mean they're not loved as much. It just means that they're younger. And in fact, you don't even have to be from different parents. Sometimes, some of you parents that are watching this, you have older kids. And then later on, even if you have a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, and then you say, hey, you're going to have another baby brother or sister. You give the news that you're expecting, right? So there's a happiness, yeah? Like there's a little bit of a, oh, wait, I'm not the baby of the family anymore? And then you find when the baby is born, and maybe there's a little bit of excitement, but the older child is also crying sometimes. Sometimes they're trying to scratch their cheek. No, I was just seeing what happened, because they can't stand that the baby looks so cute, or they're always getting attention, or they're trying to, there's a little bit of passive aggressiveness that's building up in a sibling. Some siblings are like, they turn into almost another parent. Other siblings develop this kind of insecurity that now they're taking all the attention. They're the new baby. They're the new star. Everybody wants to come see them. Everybody wants to say, mashallah, for them. What about me? I feel invisible, right? So, and it's okay for a child to feel those things, and parents should be sensitive to those feelings. But on the flip side, when you have older kids, then they should have the sense to know that our dad has always been the same towards us, and we can talk to him about anything. If we feel like we're feeling like we're invisible, then we can go talk to him. And the other remarkable thing here about this comment that they made, that Yusuf and his brother are more lovable or more beloved to our father than we are, is they made a statement of fact about what their father feels. Love is a feeling, right? And I can't tell you, hey, you know what? You love this one more than you love that one. I can't tell you what you feel in your heart because I have no access to that. You can only observe from the outside and say, I think you give this one better treatment than that one, or you're nicer to this one or that one, or you're harsh to this one, you're kind to that one. You can make those kinds of observations of someone's behavior, but you certainly cannot make assertive, like absolute comments about what someone feels, because you don't have access to that, only they do. You can't speak on behalf of anybody's feelings. I can't speak on behalf of anybody's feelings. I can only speak on behalf of my own feelings. If I'm going to comment on somebody else, the only thing I can comment on in my family is on someone else's behavior. What they're saying and what they're doing, not what they're feeling. They can speak for their own feelings. And so the problem here is they're speaking on behalf of their father's feelings. Dad loves them more than he loves us. Dad loves them more than he loves us. Now, before I go any further, I remind you of something, because there's what's called, it's a big English word, but I'll explain it. It's okay. Some of you high school kids hear this word now because you're taking English literature. Juxtaposition. Juxtaposition means when two things are put on top of one another. Back in the day, I don't know if school teachers use this anymore. Back in the day, you used to have those slide projectors with the clear slide, and it projects, and then they put another clear slide on top. It juxtaposes on top of it so they can show how they diverge. So the bottom one's blue, the bottom chart is blue, the top chart is red, like that. Well, what Yusuf's father did when he talked about the brothers, he said, they're going to scheme against you, and then he said the devil is an enemy. Right? So what did he juxtapose? He juxtaposed the brothers and their scheming. On top of that, what did he juxtapose? The scheming of the devil. Now, this is important because we have to go back to the story of the devil for a moment. Iblis, when Allah had given him honor, and he announced that he's creating Adam, and he's going to create someone made of clay, and eventually put a soul in him, put a ruh in him. And when he's done with all of that, all of you will be bowing. All of you will be, bowing your heads. You're going to be doing sajda over the remarkable creation that I've made. This was the announcement made to all of the angels, and Iblis was included because of his promoted status. The angels had an issue with that announcement. The angels had an issue with that announcement. They didn't understand how a human being could be worth so much. So they asked the question. They asked, are you really going to put on the earth someone who, is going to cause corruption? He's going to spill blood. We see that human beings are going to be, from what we can tell, they're going to be violent. They're going to be corrupt. So we don't understand why there's such a remarkable creation. And we don't disobey you at all. We always declare your perfection. So why the need for a creature that is going to have the choice to do the wrong thing? And our projections are they're probably going to do the wrong thing. So they did say that human beings aren't all that, basically. That's what the angels said. But my point is, not to take you back to that entire story, but to tell you one thing. The devil felt that he's a better choice. He did. But did he say anything? No, he stayed quiet. The angels are asking a question. They don't get it, so they're asking. And Iblis is just there, not saying anything. He's observing. And he's building a narrative in his mind about why he's better. But he's not saying it. The one he should be saying it to, like the angels said what their concern was, say it to Allah. It's Allah's decision, right? You have an issue with what Allah just said, or you don't understand what Allah just said, so ask Allah. You have access. He's not going to ask. And then Allah demonstrates that there's a ruh inside Adam. But when the devil made his complaint, finally when he did open his mouth, that he's not going to do sajda, what did he say? He said, you made him from dirt. But wait, he already knew Allah didn't just make him from dirt. He made him from dirt, and then he poured ruh inside him. And that's what makes Adam alayhi salam the superior creature. But even though Iblis knew that, he said, no, all he is what? Dirt. I don't want to hear about this ruh business. That, if I accept that, then it undermines my claim that I'm better. My claim that I'm better holds a stronger weight if I say that he's nothing more than what? Dirt. He's nothing more than dirt. In other words, there's a reality in front of you that Adam is not just dirt, and you know this reality, but accepting that reality will actually make you not just, your anger and your jealousy and your entitlement will no longer be justifiable. So you need to not accept certain parts of reality. You have to have selective dissonance. You have to cut off certain parts of reality and only hold on to other parts of reality that fit the story you want to tell yourself. That's what the devil did. Now, because he did that, and he created this alternative view in his mind, it got so far that he even told Allah, فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي, it's because you misled me. See, the one who misleads of all is the devil himself, isn't it? And the devil is accusing Allah of misleading him. He's accusing Allah of misleading him. What does that tell you? First of all, he's misleading himself. That's clear. That's clear. But the devil's trick, or the devil's own flaw, is he misled himself and then he blamed Allah. And he wants human beings, among other things, he wants human beings to relive his mistake. Please listen to this carefully. He wants human beings to what? Relive his own mistake. That he is misleading himself, but when it comes to questioning that, he will say, no, I'm not misleading myself, somebody else is doing this to me. These young men are misleading themselves, yes or no? Just like the devil did. They're creating a reality in which they can speak on behalf of their father's feelings, yes or no? And when they've created this alternative reality in their head, they need someone to blame. And who are they going to blame? Yusuf and his father. They're the ones to blame, not me. They're the ones that are wrong. Their dad's a prophet. And they're calling their prophet father, who is the son and grandson of noble prophecy, they're calling him clearly lost in misguidance. Can you imagine how delusional you have to become for you to talk like that, not just about your dad, but about your dad who's a prophet? And clearly that you're accusing your father of being unfair or putting love unfairly in one place or the other. How could a prophet be like that? But this feeling has festered inside them. Now there was an easy fix. And the angels didn't understand something. Did they keep it to themselves or did they ask Allah? They asked Allah. You have a feeling inside you, Dad, I feel like you love them more. Can we talk about that? They could have. And do you think Yaqub alayhi salam would not have explained himself? Would not have talked to them? Would not have given them a chance? Of course he would have. They would have had a conversation. And I've brought this up before, but I'll remind you, because I've given khutbahs about this before. There's something called tough love. When you're older, you have more responsibilities. And when you're going to act recklessly, then as a father, I'm going to say, you're old enough to know better. You should have the sense that you shouldn't have done this. I don't want to see this behavior again. There's a certain way to deal with children when they get a little older and when they don't uphold their responsibilities or they mess up. And when a young child is doing well and you're going to encourage them, right? Then you're not going to say, well, dad just gave me a good verbal thrashing and then look, he's giving him a hug. It's not fair. No, you're not even looking at what you did and what this child did. You're looking at how the treatment happened. The treatment was based on your behavior. Yusuf is being treated a certain way because of how Yusuf is carrying himself. His brother is being treated a certain way because he's a baby. You're being treated a certain way because of what you're doing, not because of Yaqub being unfair. What's wrong in what you're doing? But they're so focused on the ill-placed feelings of their father, and then that comes the next kind of remarkable thing inside all of this. A terrible evil is about to happen. We all know that. We all know that. But the heart of that terrible evil is they want to feel like dad loves them. That sounds like such an innocent emotion, right? Like, I just want to feel like you love me. That's why I tried to kill Yusuf. You guys are going to go that far, and at the end of it all, in your mind, all of that has nothing to do with anything except you feel like you're not loved. But actually, this is also a mask. This is not the reality. Their dad is a loving father. The love is there already. That's not the point. The point is they want love on their terms. This is the key. They don't want love. They want love on their own terms. Now let me explain what that means. Let me take you back to the devil story. The devil wants human beings to believe that he believes about human beings we're nothing more than what? Clay. Dirt. Which makes us nothing better than animals. The cow's made of dirt. The bird is made of dirt. The camel's made of dirt. And these Homo sapiens are made of dirt. What's the difference? Right? And so he wants to reduce us to our physical bodies. Like we have no soul. Yusuf alayhi salam is being appreciated by his father because of what he has inside of him. The heart he has. The manners he has. The respect he has, the humility he has, the intelligence he has. He's being appreciated for the spiritual goodness inside him, right? Now listen to carefully what the brother said. They said, Yusuf and his brother are more lovable to dad than we are, while we're a strong band. We're physically strong. We're the ones that carry the wood. We're the ones that graze the animals. We're the ones that fix the house when it breaks up. We're the ones that shoo away wolves when there's an attack. We're the ones that keep the house safe. We're the ones that carry all the luggage and all the groceries. We're the ones that draw the water from the well. We're the ones that do everything, and he gets all the attention. In other words, they're saying we are able-bodied. We should be appreciated for the physical contribution. Why is he appreciating his spiritual goodness? Exactly what the devil wanted, right? He wants you to see, you should value yourself based on your physical. Not your moral, not your spiritual, but your physical. They value themselves, their assessment of themselves. What is my contribution to this family? Our strength. Our strength is our contribution. We pay the bills. We take care of the house. That's our strength. This is what we bring to the table. And they can't see how a small kid and a baby are going to do what we do. You think they're going to carry the logs of wood? They're strong enough to draw the water? They can't do any of that. And yet he loves them like that? This is actually the devil winning a game. Because you will have in families around the world, people thinking that they can act however they want. They can act however immorally they want. They can use whatever foul language they want. They can mistreat and disrespect however they want. But since they're paying the rent, because they're doing the physical, because they're the ones fixing the car, because they're the ones running the business, because they're the ones doing whatever physical thing, that's why they have the license to act that way. And this is not a disease limited to men. I do all the cooking, therefore I get to talk to you however I want. I pay the bills, therefore I get to talk to you however I want. When someone is contributing in some physical way, they want to act like I should be appreciated for that and have free license to behave however I want in every other sphere. But Yaqub is not letting them get away with it. Yes, you help around the house, but you can't be disrespectful. Yes, you'll help around the house, but you can't be missing prayers. You're Muslim boys. How are you missing prayers? Yes, you help around the house, but you can't be backbiting. You can't treat your little brother like that. You can't raise your voice at your mother that way. You can't do that. Yes, you are contributing, but that's not a license to mess up in these things. And they don't want to be called out for that. They don't want to be told, no, we're not. They just want to be told, listen, you boys, I'm so proud, you do so much, therefore, I should never be criticized for anything I do. And if I get criticized, then he doesn't love us. Because Dad's always picking on us. Oh yeah, you only see the wrong in me, right? You can't see anything good that I do. All you see is that I messed up. That's all you ever see. And that's their way of deflecting from what the bad they actually do. The bad that they actually do. And this, it would be bad enough if it was one trouble kid. But now they get together. And they get together. If they talk to Dad about this, Dad could have put his arm around them, given them wisdom, calmed them down, let them see the error in their ways, appreciate the good that they do. Yes, I know you do a lot of good, and Allah reward you for it. But you know, this one thing you did, it really hurt me. This one thing you said, it wasn't. Do you think that was okay? And this one boy would have said, one young man would say, "You're right, Dad. That wasn't okay. I'm sorry. You're right." If there was a level-headed conversation, things could have de-escalated. But no. You want to go talk to your own people that think like you, and instead of talking to the person that you have a problem with, or you have a confusion with, or miscommunication with, which is your dad in this case, you want to talk among each other and make the problem worse. This is called groupthink in psychology. Yeah, this can eventually turn into something more popularly known as mob mentality. Right? You develop a thought process. That's not just you. Other people are saying things that reinforce what you already feel. And from feeling, it grows into a fact. Feelings turn into what? Fact. Because people are reinforcing it little by little by little. And first, it goes like this. I'll give you a classroom example. One time, when I used to teach Arabic a long time ago, one of my students felt like I was going too fast. One student. I swear, I did an investigation on this. One student felt I was going too fast. And I say in my class, in Arabic class all the time, if you think I'm going too fast, ask me a question, I'll answer your question. If you need review, I'll give you a review. If you need me to stay after school, I'll stay after school. If you need me to take you to lunch and then explain it to you again, I'll take you to lunch. If you need me to move into your garage so I can keep explaining to you, I'll keep explaining to you. I need to make sure you get it, but I'm not telepathic. I can't tell that you don't get it if you don't tell me. You need to tell me you don't get it. You need to tell me to repeat. And I'll do it. That's my job. I will feel like I do my job if I was able to address your concern. But you need to be able to tell me that. If you're feeling lost in class and you're like, I better not ask a question because people will think I'm slow, whose fault is that? You didn't come to a classroom to save your dignity. You came to class to learn. You didn't come to look better in the eyes of others. You came to learn. And learning means you got to get embarrassed and say, I don't know. Because if you already knew, why are you in a class? That's the point. You know, if you are afraid of embarrassment, then you will not be able to learn. You won't be able to learn. But anyway, there was a student falling behind, not asking questions in class, but developing the feeling that who's going too fast? I am. You know what? Maybe I am going too fast. But how will I know unless somebody tells? And there are other students who say, Ustad, could you repeat that please? Could you go over that again? But this one student that felt I was going too fast, in the break went to another student. Don't you feel like he goes too fast? And this other student goes, I don't know, sometimes I guess. But overall it's okay. Okay. Then he goes to another, hey, I was talking to Kareem, and Kareem thinks he's going too fast too. Do you think he's going too fast? I guess. I mean, maybe yesterday was a little bit fast. Okay. Hey, I was talking to Kareem and Abdullah, and we feel like he's going really fast. Yeah, you guys feel like that? I think you're right. I think he's going a little fast. And then he comes to me after like this, najwa. He comes to me and says, Ustad, we have a concern. I believe the entire class sees that you're going too fast. And I said, the entire class. That was in smiles 30 minutes ago. And everybody's on top. Now everybody feels that I know what happened here. Who did you talk to? Because you said everybody feels, so you clearly spoke to everybody? Well, no, not everybody, but you just said everybody feels. Who are these everybody's? No, they don't want to say. They don't want to say. They want to say to you, they don't want to say to me, but I thought I'm their teacher. So they elected you ambassador to speak on their behalf? Is that what just happened? What happens in these cases is you have one concern, but when you don't take it to the person you need to take it to, you take it to others below, then it festers and becomes a much bigger problem, and then it becomes a fact in their minds. And it creates a negative thought process. We're not even talking about evil yet. We're not even dealing with evil yet. We're dealing with unhealthy communication. That's what we're dealing with right now. That's what the devil's going to use, unhealthy communication. So they're just going to talk to each other and say, Dad loves Yusuf more. And even though in an individual conversation, one brother may have said, no, I don't think he loves him more. I just feel like, they're little, they need more attention. Or, I don't think he loves him more, but come on, he never misses Fajr. Have you seen us? How many times does Dad tell us to get up? One-on-one, they could have had that conversation. But when there's 10 of them together, and Dad loves more, though even the one that would have said, well, actually, is going to be like, I don't think I'm going to say, well, actually right now, because everybody's going to eat me alive. So I'm going to go with, yeah, I guess he does love him more. You see how groupthink works? Your own thoughts that don't agree with what's being said get suppressed. And you go with the group. You basically get brainwashed by a group, and you suppress your own opinion and your own thought because you don't want to go against the anger that's being said. And the person who's speaking obviously is not saying, we recite this so gently, إِذْ قَالُوا لَيُوسُفُ وَأَخُوهُ أَحَبُّ إِلَىٰ أَبِينَا مِنَّا وَنَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. Yusuf and his brothers are loved more. No, Yusuf and his brother? Dad loves them more than he loves us. And we're the ones doing all the work. نَحْنُ عُصْبَةٌ. The guy who's saying this is not saying this like, Dad loves them more. Like, he's not saying that. So he's all up in arms, and you want to be the voice of reason in that group? Good luck, because if he's that angry when he's raising his voice, if you share your opinion that goes against him, he's going to eat you alive next, isn't he? Excuse me? What'd you say? Oh, you don't think so? Who wants to hear that? So you're just going to suppress what you want to say. And by the way, this is teaching you something. Sometimes in a relationship, sometimes in a family dynamic, when someone's raising their voice, they're also telling you, don't tell me your opinion. Don't do that, because I'm going to eat you alive. So you need to surrender your position, and you need to accept mine. That's the purpose of raising voice. It can have that effect. And so when they speak in this way to each other, and then they're riled up, they're all just fired up. Everybody's like, yeah, God, Yusuf. You guys realize something in all of this? Okay, I'm telling you how they feel and all of that, but nobody asked the question, so why does Dad love him so much? What is it about him that Dad loves? And you could ask that in a negative way. What's so good about Yusuf and his brother anyway? Or you could actually genuinely ask, hey, what does Yusuf do that we should be doing? Dad's always been the same. He was our dad when we were little. He is not acting any different. So what is Yusuf doing that maybe we used to do and we don't do anymore, or that maybe we could be doing better? Is Dad not communicating to us what he expects? Because I'm pretty sure he is. Dad seems like a pretty open communicator, can't you tell? But they're not going to ask that question. They instead, and if Dad is the one who's confused, then clearly who hasn't done anything wrong? Yusuf hasn't. Even in their mind, the one who's done wrong is who? Dad. But later on, what are they going to suggest? Kill who? Kill Yusuf. Why? He's so good, right? He just doesn't make any mistakes, right? Yeah. Even when we get mad at him, he's still kind to us. And he's just too perfect, isn't he? So perfect. I can't stand how perfect he is. Like he walks in and you just get, There's an anger brewing. And we can't find something to pin on him. We can't make him look bad. This makes us even angrier. And if you could find something to make him look bad, then you'd say it, but you can't. So the only way you can solve that problem is get rid of him. And nowadays, alhamdulillah, we have police. We have authorities. So even if somebody has these kinds of feelings towards a family member, a sibling sometimes, sometimes a spouse, sometimes an uncle, cousin, whoever, if they have these kinds of feelings, maybe they can't kill them, but they're dreaming about it. Man, if only just today they got in a car accident. Or they didn't call back in rush hour. They're like, I hope today's the day. They can develop that. That's the same satanic feeling. It's not, this is just a conversation right now, isn't it? And people can have that conversation just inside their head. Life would be so much better with them not around. Yeah, then I wouldn't have any problems. Then they'd see what I really am like. I'm invisible because of him. And if he wasn't there, then I'd be visible again. This is exactly what the devil said. If Adam isn't there, then I'll be visible. Allah sees all or no? Allah sees what the devil's worth, what Iblis was doing, what good he did before. Allah sees it. And the doors of rizq opening, somebody receiving love doesn't mean you're being deprived of it. You have your own value. You have your own self-esteem. But this is what the devil wants, comparison. You can't see your value unless you compare yourself to someone else. They can't help but compare themselves, even to a kid, even to a child. They're comparing themselves. They feel the need to validate themselves by calling themselves nahnu usba. We're a band. We're so strong. We do all this stuff. And then when it gets so far beyond reason, they've passed, this is the problem, they've passed a judgment on their father. The voice of reason in that household is their father. I need you to remember that. The voice of reason is who? The father. He's the source of wisdom. But when they say, Inna abana lafi dalalim mubin, no doubt our father is truly lost in obvious misguidance. He's so lost, he's so confused, he's so off the deep end. He's a lost cause. You know what they've done? They've basically invalidated anything their father has to say before he even says it. So even if the father tries to reason with them, tries to calm them down, tries to talk to them, in their head, he's already lafi dalalim mubin, he's already a lost cause. Of course you would say that, Dad. Yeah, sure. Like, they hear but they don't hear. They're deflecting it already because they've already plugged their ears when it comes to Dad because they've passed a judgment on him. And this is one of the things Iblis wants. He wants, if there's a source of reason, you want to demonize that source of reason. You want to invalidate that source of reason. So even when reasonable things are coming from that way, you can dismiss them before they're even said because I can't accept it because it's coming from you. You can't be saying something right. Inna abana lafi dalalim mubin. And even if he be a prophet, like this is how far delusional a person can get, that they can't listen to reason. What happens in many families is you're pitted against another family member. Sibling is pitted against sibling. Child against father or mother, spouse against spouse, and they've developed an opinion about that family member. And because they've developed that opinion, anything that comes out of their mouth is wrong before it's even come out of their mouth. Any attempt at reconciliation will be questioned because, no, of course you'd say that because you love Yusuf more. I know your intentions already. So not only do you think that they're confused, you also think that they're never unbiased. They always speak with a bias. Right? You've already got that judgment of them. That closes any doors of reconciliation. Now you can't fix a family problem because you're already the judge. Now that you're a judge and you've got your own jury, the only thing left now is executioner, which is coming. That's what's going to come when we discuss tomorrow. You go from here, the next thing that's going to happen is some very evil acts. And so what I want to leave you guys with today is this thought. When you have unaddressed negative emotions, and you're only talking to people that help make them worse, excite those emotions more. They only validate what you're feeling. They don't question what you're feeling. Like sometimes you have friends you want to talk to about how you feel, and when your friend says, well, I know you're angry, but I think that anger might be a little bit misplaced. You're like, what did you say about my anger? You said my anger is misplaced? I think my friendship is misplaced. Click. Because you don't want to hear that what you feel is wrong. If you're my real friend, you would appreciate how I feel. And you would agree with how I feel. And you'd help me feel what I feel even more. That's a real friend. No, a real friend, صَدِيقُكَ مَنْ صَدَقَكَ لَا مَنْ صَدَّقَكَ. A real friend is someone who's going to be true to you, not just someone who's going to take your side no matter what. That's not what your friend is. And sometimes friends will say offensive things. Or maybe they'll say things you didn't want to hear from them. You wanted to rant to them and they might point out, well, maybe, have you thought about this? That's not what I hear from you, man. I wanted to vent to you so you can make me feel better about how angry I am. But no, maybe you should give a little benefit of the doubt. Maybe you should look at it from this angle or that angle. We don't want to hear that. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I understand. I thought you understood me, but you don't really understand me. So I don't think this friendship is working out. So you just pull, because you're fi dalalim mubin, right? The voice of reason is lost. And once you can do that, And you can only be around people that can reinforce your spite. They can reinforce your, maybe sometimes arrogance. Maybe they can reinforce your jealousy. Maybe they can reinforce your false sense of justice, which is actually injustice. If you want to only surround yourself with people like that, then what's going to come next is some very evil acts directed towards somebody else. Because in your mind, what you're doing will be entirely justified, a just cause. You're doing something good. You're doing something, you're going to do the worst evil things, and in your head, you're going to say, I'm doing this for you. I'm doing this for the family. That's how crazy it's going to be. And I'm not making this up, it's in the Quran. In the next ayah, we're going to see at the end, وَتَكُونُوا مِن بَعْدِهِ قَوْمًا صَالِحِينَ. You'll be good after that. Good in their mind, this is all so we can be good. That's how crazy this is. This is how evil, unhealthy communication can become. And it's such a profound thing that's being taught to us about jealousy, about developing judgments about feelings, and someone loves me or doesn't love me, whether their advice is valid or not. All of that is encapsulated inside these words of theirs that they've shared. And what did their father say? They might scheme against you, right? Now you know why he said that, because they only talk to each other, they don't talk to him. And when you only talk to each other, then talk will eventually turn into some kind of evil plan of action, because that's what the devil wants. He wants to first whisper and corrupt your thinking, your feelings. When your thoughts and your feelings are corrupted enough, what will come out of that will be corrupted actions. The devil doesn't just call you to corrupted actions. He wants you to twist and mutilate your feelings and thoughts first. And when they get twisted enough, then the actions will be easy. Right? So he's not just calling you to actions. That the devil can't come to you and say, hey, do haram. Like, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. He won't come that straight. He'll come to you, Dallahuma bi ghurur. He drew them in deceptively, little by little, by little, by little, by little. That's how he does it. And look at what he did. He took this emotion of wanting to be loved, a healthy emotion, and look at how he poisoned it. Look at how he turned it into something else completely. He turned it into hate, judgment, disregard. And this is what we have to be afraid of in our families, and sometimes what this means. If we don't want this to happen, the tragedy of Yusuf to happen in our families, then we have to sometimes have uncomfortable and open conversations. That's really what this is. The angels were terrified to question Allah's decision about the creation of Adam, but they did it. And even then, at the end, وَنَحْنُ نُسَبِّحُ بِحَمْدِكَ وَنُقَدِّسُ لَكَ. And when Allah answered, they said, Subhanaka la ilma lana. You're too perfect. Sorry, we don't have any knowledge except what you taught us. They're humble, they're scared to ask, but they still asked. Sometimes you have to have uncomfortable conversations for things to get better. And if you don't have those uncomfortable conversations with the right parties that need to be addressed, then maybe you're going to make things way worse. Your silence may make things way worse than you having those kinds of transparent conversations. May Allah Azza wa Jal protect our families from the kind of tragedy that we're reading about in the story of our remarkable Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, and not let us fall into the kind of mistakes that his brothers fell into. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayati wa dhikr al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Oh, you still here? Get out of here. Get out of here.